These three fantasy characters have been making me think about forgiveness and who can be redeemed, and I think people will have wildly different opinions on them. I'd love to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments. The first one is Dalinar Kholin, and we're introduced to him later on in his life when he's regretting the things he did in his past. But at first we're not told all the things he's done, and that's not until later when we realise the atrocities he's committed. We're led to believe that he's a man of honour, but I think that's done deliberately so that it's even more jarring when we come across what he's done in his past. And I think that's reflective of real life, because in these court cases you hear people, friends of the perpetrator, defending that person, saying, oh, but he's a really good guy, even when that person has done indefensible things. So by introducing us to Dalinar first and making us have a good opinion of him, then when we're challenged with these things in the past, it puts us in that same position as being a friend of someone who's done something horrific. And will we change our opinion of him? He does want to change and get better, and there's a big thing made about the next step. But I don't think he ever realises the full weight of what he's done to so many people, all the people he's killed, and not just taking those lives, those precious lives, the people who loved those people are also affected. It's just the extent of it is huge, and I don't think he ever truly realises what he's done. I just think it's convenient that now he's older, he's coming to regret those things. I personally don't feel like he is redeemable, and I think part of this is reflected in that Retribution takes the echo of the Blackthorn and is going to use him as the head of his armies in the future. And I think that is the consequences of the unforgivable things he's done and the irreparable harm he's done to others. So I definitely do not view Dalinar as a hero. The second character is Logen Ninefingers from the first Law trilogy, and when we meet him, he's proclaiming to be wanting to be a better man, and we gradually learn the horrific atrocities that he's committed and how many people he's killed. But the proof is in the pudding, as they say, and he doesn't appear to actually change or do anything to bring about change. But he knows he slips into that state where he's no longer himself and doesn't care if he kills children or whoever, and he does nothing to investigate that or to make himself a safe person. So he's just dangerous to be around. And we as the reader never know whether it's because it's a psychological break, or if it's because he's possessed by a demon or something that's come from the other side in this first Law fantasy world. The third character is Misaki's husband in The Sword of Kaigen by Wang. I hated the redemptive arc of the loathsome husband. His attitude, behaviour and sexism are barely changed by the end, yet the author wants us to believe that he is now a noble character. It feels like the author is forcing it and justifying things that can't be justified. The double standards are galling, especially when the author holds Misaki just as responsible for the problems in the marriage as the husband. But also she has to perform all the emotional and physical labour to redeem the husband, wake him up from his coldness and indifference, and bring about the change in him. It's forced down our throats that it's her duty as a wife to do so. Yes, both husband and wife have been mistreated by the same person, but Misaki, on top of that, has also been subjugated by her husband's demand for her obedience and the systemic sexism that exists in that culture. The two can't be compared. She was forced to give up her whole life to this arranged marriage. If she had married the man that she loved instead, she would have been shunned and never seen her family, whom she loved dearly, ever again. It also feels odd that Misaki, who has clearly been shown to be a skilled teacher and fighter, is not allowed to play this role, but her husband, who is a terrible teacher and communicator, ends up the one teaching. Much as the author wants to push the idea that this marriage has ended up a team effort, the inequality is still obvious, and this husband is irredeemable. So with the first two characters, it's a case of mass murder, and the third one is abuse. But the first two characters especially are much loved characters in the fantasy world and thought of as heroes. Yet, if someone in real life had done those same things as those two men, they would not forgive them, and I think they would regard them as unforgivable. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please consider watching the first pinned video in my profile, which explains the situation with my neck and why I'm having to fundraise for life-changing neurosurgery. Thank you.